All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric, from a men's point of view, and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children, men will die for their wives and children, and God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium: grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium: arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace, women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendis et. Multiply your income. Red-pilled strategies for men in their 20s, written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Buy on Amazon or Google or Spotify Amazon link, https://www.amazon.com to multiply your income strategies. Reinvention ebook DPB0DY6 MSXSSQ Google link. https://asplaygoogle.com store audiobooks at TL as ID AQAA key 6007M Spotify link. https://openspadefi.com show 4 KMP8 MHIAT Jaku 4 ons 15. The user wants a continuation of a partial answer. The partial answer ends abruptly mid-sentence. Return only the next continuation text that belongs after the partial answer. Do not repeat, summarize, quote, or rewrite any earlier text. Continue mid-sentence if needed. Obey the original requested length count exactly. If the partial answer already satisfies the original request, respond only with brother. If you are reading this in the small hours after the filing, the accusation, the order, the vanishing, then stop, breathe. You are in the deepest trench of the Negredo, the alchemical blackening, where every pillar you leaned on has been kicked away and the floor itself feels like falling. This is the opening blow of a job-like ordeal, and I need you to understand, the stripping was not proof of your guilt or your worthlessness, but proof that the structure around you was built to dispossess you the moment your utility expired. The shock you feel is moral concussion, not clarity, which is why the first rule is absolute. Make no permanent decision in this fog. No text to her, no signed paper, no public reckoning, no final exit. The adversary's entire strategy is to convert your pain into a paper trail, to goad you into being the evidence they need. Your only assignment today is stabilization. One trusted man who has walked this corridor and survived, a sober record of facts stripped of feeling, lawful compliance with orders you did not deserve, and the physical discipline of water, sleep, and stillness. Everything you built can be taken, the house, the savings, the title, the schedule, but the well beneath your feet cannot be seized by any court, because it is your capacity to see clearly, choose deliberately, and refuse to become what they need you to become. This blackening is not your funeral. It is the funeral of the man who believed the machinery was neutral, that dutiful provision earned loyalty, that the contract was real. The man who emerges from this ash will be harder to deceive, harder to manipulate, harder to break, not because he grew cold, but because he finally learned the price of truth and decided to pay it standing up. For now, hold the line. Breathe through the night. The crossing is real, the water is deep. But countless men have waded through this same current and found dry land on the other side, building lives cleaner and freer than anything the old structure ever permitted. You are not the first, and you will not be the last, which means there is a path, and your task is simply to take the next step. First rule, stay alive and stay disciplined. Do not make permanent decisions inside acute shock. Do not retaliate. Do not intoxicate yourself into collapse. Tell one trusted man the truth today. If you are in immediate danger or might hurt yourself, secure immediate physical safety through the least adversarial trusted route available. The descent pattern, case pattern, the Gower's horn, a liturgical autopsy of the family court Leviathan Job wound. You have been stripped of your health, your wealth, your children, and your reputation, not because of your sin, but because the system demands a scapegoat to balance its own internal contradictions. The pre-litigation silence, the adversary's emotional withdrawal and strategic consolidation of assets disguised as stress or menopause while she quietly maps the terrain of your dispossession. The sudden filing, a procedural ambush where the petition arrives not as a request for separation, but as a declaration of war, utilizing legal positivism to redefine your marital contributions as mere support rather than partnership. The gamma bias default, the court system, structurally female-coded, presumes maternal fitness as the natural order and paternal fitness as a privilege to be earned, shifting the burden of proof onto you to justify your existence in your child's life. The false allegation cascade, a strategic deployment of gut feelings elevated to evidentiary status, where subjective emotional states are treated as objective facts, creating a Kafka trap where denial is interpreted as guilt. The asset liquidation, the systematic erosion of your net worth through legal fees, temporary orders, and the devaluation of your labor, converting your life's work into a stream of monthly payments to the adversary. The fatherhood reduction, your role as provider and protector is reduced to a transactional visitation schedule, stripping you of authority and reducing your relationship with your children to a court-monitored performance. The reputation trial, a parallel museum of misandry, is constructed in the court of public opinion and family circles, where your normal male behaviors are pathologized as controlling or emotionally unavailable. The final judgment, a decree that feels less like justice and more like a tax on your masculinity, leaving you with the title of father, but the reality of a tenant in your own life. Natural law crime ledger. The inversion of fitness, maternal presumption treated as absolute truth, paternal fitness as conditional privilege 9/10. Restoration, lawfully document your daily involvement, spiritually reclaim your role as the moral authority in your home, not by force, but by consistent, calm presence. The commodification of paternity, fatherhood reduced to a financial obligation rather than a relational covenant, 8/10. Restoration, pay your obligations with precision and without complaint, but never confuse payment with presence. Invest in the quality of time, not just the quantity of dollars. The tyranny of subjectivity, emotional state elevated above empirical evidence in legal proceedings, 7/10. Restoration, anchor yourself in objective reality. Keep a sober record of events. Do not argue with feelings, but with facts, and let the system's irrationality expose itself, the alchemical map. Negredo, blackening, the initial shock of betrayal and the rotting of the old identity, the realization that the wife you knew was a construct, and the court is not a temple of justice but a machine of extraction. Albedo whitening, the washing away of emotional reactivity, the sobering clarity of the trusted man and the disciplined record, the separation of fact from feeling, and the beginning of stoic endurance. Misit Trinitas, yellowing, the awakening of the solar masculine, the integration of the shadow's anger into righteous purpose, the shift from victimhood to agency, recognizing that your pain is fuel for reconstruction. Rubedo, reddening, the final integration, the creation of a new, harder, more resilient self, the ability to love your children without losing yourself.
The successful crossing of the great water into a life of sovereign virtue. Dr. Winona demonstrates the betrayal logic, D.L. Winona, feminist Marxist Ph.D., professor of gender studies.
A composite confession, the architecture of certainty. You want to know how it's done. You want to know how a woman with a doctorate, a pension, and a podcast can walk into a courtroom, a faculty senate, or a neighborhood group and remake reality. I'll tell you. Not because I'm proud, though I am, but because someone should document the craft before the backlash makes it illegal to even think what I think, which honestly, is already happening. Selective facts, the curator's art, my ex-husband, I'll call him the respondent, because that's what he is now legally and spiritually, once told me I had a tendency to remember only what confirms the thesis. He said this during our 4th year of marriage, over dishes, in a tone I can only describe as lecturing. I noted it, not in a journal, in my body, the way a woman notes a stain on a blouse, something to be treated, then worn differently next time. Here is what I curated for the attorney, for the mediator, for my therapist, for his mother, and eventually for the court-appointed evaluator. He raised his voice on October 14th. He did. I have the recording legal in our state, one-party consent, and I advise every woman I mentor to know her jurisdiction's wiretapping statutes before she needs them. On that recording he says, and I quote, "I am so tired of being treated like an ATM with feelings." Now, what I did not curate, what I did not transfer to the cloud, what I did not play for the evaluator the 45 seconds before that clip where I said, "You don't get to be tired, you don't carry anything. You go to work and you come home and you think that's enough. I am the one who carries this family emotionally and you don't even see it." Context is a patriarchal invention, or at least that is what I tell myself when I hit stop. The curator chooses the exhibit. The museum does not display every painting. It displays the ones that tell the story the curator has already decided is true. And I had decided 2 narrative laundering from complaint to consensus. The first rule of narrative laundering is simple. Never introduce a new accusation into a formal setting first. You introduce it socially. You let it circulate. You let it age then. By the time it reaches the paperwork, it has the patina of established fact. Here is the sequence I used, refined over years of consulting with sisters in the discipline. Phase 1, the confidante. I told my friend Sarah, a fellow academic, married to a man she tolerates, that I had been walking on eggshells. I did not specify the eggshells. I let her fill in the blanks. Women are trained to fill in blanks with the worst possible interpretation of male behavior. This is not a bug. It is a feature of the culture we have built. And I say that with professional admiration.
Phase 2, the expanded circle. Sarah told our book club, not in so many words. She said Winona is going through a really hard time. She's not safe. The word safe is the master key.
It unlocks every door. Pastoral care, HR escalation, legal sympathy, social media amplification. No one asks what safe means, because asking is itself unsafe. Phase 3, the professional layer. I told my therapist I felt controlled. She validated. That is what therapists do. They validate. The modality practically requires it. Now I had a clinical document, session notes, corroborating a feeling I had strategically generated. Phase 4, the legal formalization. By the time my attorney filed the petition, the word controlling had been laundered through 5 social nodes, 1 clinical authority, and 2 faculty colleagues who had heard rumors. It was no longer my claim, it was community knowledge. This is not lying. Lying is crude. This is epistemic engineering. 3, social triangulation. The web as weapon. I did not confront my husband about my dissatisfaction until I had already built the coalition. This is critical. A woman who complains before she has consensus is a nag. A woman who complains after she has consensus is a survivor coming forward. The triangulation had a geometry. His mother. I called her in March, weeping. I said I was worried about his stress, not my safety, his stress. This positioned me as the caring wife, the one who notices, the one who reaches out. By the time he discovered I had spoken to his mother, the narrative was already. She tried. She reached out to his own family. She was desperate. Our pediatrician at our daughter's 6-year checkup. I mentioned casually that Dad travels a lot for work and I'm the primary attachment figure. This was entered into the medical record. In a custody dispute, the medical record is oracular. The school counselor, I volunteered for the PTA. I was visible, I was warm, I brought gluten-free muffins. When I eventually mentioned to the counselor that the home situation was becoming difficult, she offered resources. I accepted them. The acceptance itself became evidence of proactive concern for the children. His best friend's wife She was always a little envious of our house. I leveraged that. I confided in her over Pinot Noir. She told her husband. Her husband told mine. He came home bewildered and asked, "Why are you telling people I'm controlling?" And that right there became the proof. See how he confronts me. See how he interrogates me. This is what I mean by controlling.
The trap closes. The more he protests, the more he confirms. IV. Status games the credential as shield. I am Dr. Winona, feminist Marxist, PhD. I published in Signs in Hypatia. I sit on the diversity committee.
I have been quoted in 2 local newspapers and 1 podcast with 14,000 subscribers. He is an engineer, a good one. Quiet, he builds bridges. Literal bridges. But in the court of social and institutional reality, I outrank him. My vocabulary is weaponized. His vocabulary is functional. I can say coercive control and it sounds like diagnosis. He says, she's turning everyone against me and it sounds like paranoia. Status is not about who is right. Status is about who is legible to the institution. I am legible. He is not. I speak the language of harm, safety, power dynamics, emotional labor, gaslighting, and trauma. He speaks the language of fairness, and fairness, as any critical theorist will tell you, is a construct used by the powerful to maintain their position, unless, of course, the powerless demand it. Then fairness becomes justice. The beauty of the framework is its total adaptability. Paperwork pressure, the bureaucracy as blade. Here is what men do not understand about the legal system. It is not designed to discover truth. It is designed to process paperwork. Whoever files first, files most, and files with the most emotionally resonant language wins. Not in court, necessarily, but in the default assumptions of every clerk, evaluator, and temporary order judge who touches the file. My petition was 17 pages. His response was 4. I know this because his attorney charged him $1,100 to write those 4 pages. And he told me this in a text I later introduced as evidence of his obsession with money over the well-being of the family. Every motion I filed was accompanied by a declaration. Every declaration used the same vocabulary: pattern, escalation, fear, safety, children's best interests. I did not invent these phrases. I extracted them from the domestic violence literature I had been teaching for 15 years. I was in a sense grading my own exam. The paperwork pressure was not about winning each motion. It was about exhaustion. By month 6, he was spending 40% of his net income on legal fees. By month 9, he stopped contesting temporary orders. By month 12, he agreed to a custody schedule I had designed, one that gave me every weekend, every holiday, and decision-making authority over education and healthcare. He said, I just want it to end. I heard victory. Entitlement, the final logic. Do I believe I deserved all of it? The house, the accounts, the primary custody, the child support, the sympathy, the identity of brave woman who left? Yes, not because of what he did, because of what the system owes me. I have spent 20 years studying, teaching, and publishing on the structural oppression of women. I have served on committees, I have mentored, I have organized. I have carried the emotional and intellectual labor of an entire department that secretly resents me because I make them uncomfortable. The house is compensation, the child support is reparations. The custody arrangement is justice, because justice, as I define it in my syllabus and as no one in my department has the courage to challenge, is the redistribution of unearned male advantage. My ex-husband is not a bad man. He is a structural problem, and structural problems require structural solutions. He was the structure. I was the solution. 7. What I will never say in a lecture. Here is what I will never admit in a keynote, in a faculty meeting, or on my podcast. I loved him. He was kind. He built things that did not collapse. He read to our daughter every night, even when he was exhausted, even when I had spent the evening undermining him in texts to Sarah, even when I had already decided to leave. He did not deserve what I did to him. But deserve is a word for individuals, and I am a theorist of systems. Systems do not care about individuals. Neither do I, not anymore. Spiritual divorce and the trip through hell. The Spiritual Divorce, a field manual for men crossing the abyss. I, the first hour. Why you must not die today. You are reading this because the floor collapsed. The petition arrived. The deputy served you papers at your workplace. Your bank account froze. She left with the children and a restraining order sworn from feelings, not facts. Your phone filled with messages from people you thought were friends, now reciting a script you do not recognize, a script in which you are the villain of a story you never agreed to tell. You are in acute shock. Your nervous system is flooding. Adrenaline has made the world sharp and unreal simultaneously. You cannot sleep, or you sleep 4 hours and wake at 3 a.m. with your heart slamming against your sternum like a prisoner against a cell door. You are not thinking clearly. That is not weakness, that is biology. A man whose life has been structurally detonated is running on the same neurochemistry as a soldier caught in an ambush. Here is the first rule, and it is not negotiable. No permanent decisions in acute shock. Do not sign the agreement her attorney pushed across the table. Do not sell the truck. Do not empty the retirement account. Do not send the text message you're composing at 2 a.m. Do not drink. Do not drive to her house. Do not call her mother. Do not post on social media. Do not quit your job. Do not relocate. Do not write the email. Do not make the call. The adversary. And right now the adversary is the system processing you, not merely your wife, wants exactly one thing in this first window: your emotional reactivity converted into a paper trail. Every enraged text, every pleading voicemail, every door slamming confrontation becomes Exhibit A through Z in a petition for a permanent order. The machinery does not need to prove you are dangerous. It needs one documented moment of loss of composure, and the presumption locks into place like a deadbolt. You are not in a courtroom. You are in a manufacturing plant. The plant manufactures evidence. Your behavior is the raw material. Rule of the first hour: become boring, speak less. Write only when necessary, and write as though a judge will read it, because a judge will maintain the schedule you had before the filing. Go to work. Eat protein. Sleep or lie still. Do not negotiate. Do not confess. Do not explain. The time for explanation will come, and it will come in a format you control, a sober record, reviewed by counsel, not in a 1 a.m. paragraph fired from a phone. Find one man, not a therapist, not a family member who will panic, not a co-worker who will gossip. One man who has been through this machinery and survived it. He exists. He may be at your church, your gym, your job site, your veterans group. He may be someone you have not spoken to in 5 years. Find him. Tell him 3 sentences. My wife filed. I have papers. I need to not do anything stupid for 72 hours. He will understand. He has been where you are standing. If you are in imminent danger to your own life, if the thought of staying alive today is genuinely beyond your grip, secure immediate physical safety through the least adversarial route available. That means call the one trusted man. If he is not available, call emergency medical help. The system is not your friend, but a dead man builds nothing, fathers no one, and testifies in no archive. You are worth more alive than any insurance policy, any settlement, any narrative. The adversary's preferred outcome is your liquidation. Assets, insurance, reputation, fatherhood, and life. Refuse the liquidation by the simple, stubborn, unglamorous act of waking up tomorrow. Why no permanent decisions? Because acute shock distorts time preference. You are pricing a 40-year decision with a 40-minute mind. The prefrontal cortex is offline. The amygdala is driving. You would not buy a house, sign a mortgage, or perform surgery in this state. You are being asked to sign away your children, your home, and your income. Wait. The fog will lift. It may take 72 hours. It may take 2 weeks. It will lift. When it lifts, you will be grateful you did not hand them the rope they wanted to hang you with. 2. The betrayal sequence. Conduct, incentives, paperwork, and narrative capture. Let us name what happened to you. Not in the language of therapy, grief, loss, transition, but in the language of operational analysis. You were not abandoned, you were processed. The pre-litigation silence. Months before the filing, something shifted. The adversary became quieter, less reactive. She stopped arguing. She started agreeing, oddly, strangely, in ways that felt like surrender but smelled like strategy. You mistook the silence for peace. It was reconnaissance. She was consolidating, opening accounts, photographing household contents, screenshotting texts, consulting an attorney on a free initial consult that taught her exactly which phrases to deploy and which facts to bury. She was mapping the terrain of your dispossession while you were paying the mortgage. This is not a theory. Family law attorneys routinely advise pre-litigation planning, bar association publications, continuing legal education seminars, and divorce coaching manuals openly discuss the exit strategy timeline. The process is rational from the adversary's incentive structure. She who prepares wins. The system rewards preparation and punishes trust. You trusted, you were prey. The sudden filing. The petition did not arrive as a request for separation. It arrived as a declaration of war. The language was not "we grew apart." The language was pattern of coercive control, or financial abuse, or emotionally unsafe environment for the children. These are not descriptions of your conduct. They are legal passwords, incantations that unlock default presumptions, temporary orders, and the procedural machinery of your removal from your own home. Legal positivism defines law as whatever the sovereign enacts. In family court, the sovereign is not the legislature. The sovereign is the procedural default. The default is mother gets the children, father gets the bill. The default was not set by your conduct. It was set by incentives. Federal funding under Title 4D reimburses states for child support enforcement, creating a structural bias toward maximizing transfer payments. The more money moves from your account to hers, the more federal money flows to the state. The machine is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. The gamma bias default. The court system is structurally female-coded. This is not an insult. It is a description of incentives, personnel, procedure, and ideology. Family law is practiced predominantly by women. Family court judges are increasingly female. Social workers, guardians ad litem, court-appointed evaluators, parenting coordinators, and mediators are drawn from disciplines, social work, counseling, psychology that are not merely female majority but ideologically captured by frameworks that pathologize male behavior and sanitize female behavior. The default presumption operates like gravity. Maternal fitness is the natural order. Paternal fitness is a privilege to be earned. You are not a father with rights. You are a respondent with obligations. The burden of proof has been silently inverted. You must prove you deserve your children. She must prove nothing. Her claim to motherhood is ontological. Your claim to fatherhood is contractual. The false allegation cascade. Here is where the system reveals its engine. Subjective emotional states are elevated to evidentiary status. I feel unsafe becomes I am unsafe. The feeling is the fact. The accusation is the proof. Denial is interpreted as guilt. A Kafka trap named for its architect. Not its victims. You are accused. You deny. Your denial demonstrates lack of insight, which confirms the accusation. You admit, even partially, even to, maybe I raised my voice once, and the admission is Exhibit 1. The gut feeling standard is unfalsifiable. There is no evidence you can produce that disproves a feeling. You cannot cross-examine an emotion. You cannot subpoena a subjective state. The accusation is structured to be immune to refutation, which means it is structured to be immune to truth. The asset liquidation. The temporary orders arrive. You pay the mortgage on a house you cannot enter. You pay child support calculated on imputed income. What the court thinks you should earn, not what you earn. You pay her attorney's fees because the court decides she lacks earning capacity regardless of her degree, her work history, or her voluntary underemployment. You pay for the guardian ad litem. You pay for the parenting evaluator. You pay for the co-parenting counselor. You pay for the drug test she requested with no evidence. And when it comes back clean, you pay for the second one she requests because the first did not address prescription medications. Your life's work converts into a stream of monthly payments. You are no longer a man, you are a revenue source, the fatherhood reduction. Your role as provider, protector, moral authority, and daily presence is reduced to a transactional visitation schedule. Every other weekend, Wednesday dinner, 5 to 8 p.m. You are not a father. You are an entertainer on a court-monitored rotation. You cannot discipline because you have no continuity. You cannot build routine because your time is sliced into segments too short for depth. You are a guest in your children's lives, and the host can cancel at will. the reputation trial in parallel. A museum of misandry is constructed in the court of public opinion. Your family, her family, mutual friends, your church, your workplace, all receive curated testimony. Every normal male behavior is pathologized. Working long hours becomes absenteeism. Managing the budget becomes financial control. Wanting to know where she was becomes monitoring. Disagreeing becomes escalation. Anger at betrayal becomes volatility. Kindness becomes love bombing. There is no male behavior that cannot be reclassified as abuse under the current definitional regime. The final judgment, the decree arrives. It feels less like justice and more like a tax on your existence. You have the title of father, but the reality of a tenant. You have the obligation of a husband, but none of the authority. You are free, free to pay, free to comply, free to attend the court-mandated class on anger management. You do not need because your only crime was trusting a system designed to consume you. 3. Job as the map, losing everything without cursing God. The book of Job is not a theodicy. It is a field manual for men who lose everything they did not deserve to lose. It is the oldest and most precise map of the territory you are now crossing. Job had a house. He had children, 7 sons, 3 daughters. He had livestock, servants, reputation, health, and the respect of his community. He was, the text insists, blameless and upright. And then, in a sequence so rapid it takes 4 verses, everything was taken. Messengers arrive in sequence, each one reporting a different catastrophe, each one arriving before the previous one finishes speaking. War, fire, wind, death. His children are gone, his wealth is gone. His body is covered in sores. His wife tells him to curse God and die. You know this sequence, the process server, the frozen account, the false allegation, the temporary order removing you from your home, the friend who stops returning calls, the church elder who suggests you examine your own heart, the body that breaks under cortisol and sleep deprivation, the woman who was your covenant partner now functioning as your adversary, her attorney's instructions more real to her than her own vows. Job's friends arrive. They are theologians. They are certain. They have a theory: suffering is punishment. If you are suffering, you sinned. The theory is clean, totalizing, and wrong. Job knows it is wrong because he knows his own heart, and he knows he did not do what the theory requires, but he cannot disprove the theory because the theory is unfalsifiable. It assumes its conclusion. You must have hidden sin. Search your heart. What are you not telling us? The friends are the court system. The friends are the therapist who validates her feelings and pathologizes your resistance. The friends are the culture that says, if she left, you must have failed. Job does 3 things that map directly onto your task. First, he refuses the false confession. He will not admit to sins he did not commit, even under immense social pressure, even when the confession would buy him peace. He insists on truth. I will maintain my righteousness and not let it go. This is not pride. This is epistemic integrity. A man who confesses to what he did not do has surrendered his relationship with reality, and reality is the only court that ultimately matters. Second, he refuses to curse God. He does not pretend the suffering is good. He does not recite platitudes. He laments, he cries out, he demands an explanation. He says things that sound impious to comfortable people who have never been scraped to the bone. But he refuses the final step. He refuses to declare that reality is malevolent, that truth is a lie, that the logos governing the universe is a fraud. He holds the line between honest anguish and metaphysical betrayal. That line is everything. Third, he waits. He does not negotiate with his friend's theory. He does not capitulate to his wife's despair. He sits in the ashes, literally, and endures the unendurable until the answer comes. And the answer, when it comes, is not an explanation. It is a theophany, a confrontation with the living reality that the universe is larger, older, and more terrible than the friend's little theory, and that Job's suffering is real, his integrity is real, and the two can coexist without resolution. Your task is Job's task. Do not curse reality. Do not confess to what you did not do. Do not accept the friend's theory. Sit in the ashes, endure. The answer is not an explanation. It is an encounter with truth that reorders the soul. AV, the alchemical stages from expulsion to rubedo. The Western alchemical tradition describes the transmutation of prima materia, raw, unrefined substance, into gold through a sequence of operations. This is not chemistry. It is psychology, theology, and moral architecture. It maps precisely onto the passage you are now making. Expulsion. You have been cast out of the garden, not metaphorically. The home you built, paid for, maintained, and protected is now a crime scene to enter. The bed you slept in belongs to a legal fiction. The children you raised now answer to a different authority structure. You are Adam after the fall, Cain after the mark, Ishmael after the expulsion, Odysseus washed up naked on Phaeacia. The expulsion is total. You lose not only the physical structure but the identity it contained. You were husband, you were father, you were provider. These were not roles you played. They were the architecture of your selfhood. Without them, you do not know who you are. This is the point. The old self must die. Not because it was bad, because it was incomplete, because it was built on assumptions the collapse has revealed as false. The ashes, Job sat in ashes. Ashes are what remains when everything combustible has burned. What is left is mineral, incombustible, irreducible. The ash stage is the stripping away of everything non-essential. Your reputation, ash. Your social standing, ash. Your self-image as the man who could hold it together, ash. What remains when the fire is done? Not nothing. Something denser, something that cannot be burned further because it is already pure. Nigredo, the blackening, this is the longest and most dangerous stage. The old identity rots. The wife you knew dissolves and you realize she was partly a construct, partly real, partly projection, partly the image you needed to survive. The court dissolves from a temple of justice into a machine of extraction. The church dissolves from a refuge into a building where people repeat phrases they do not understand. The friends dissolve into a sorting mechanism. Those who stood, those who fled, those who sided with the narrative. Everything darkens. You see what you did not see before, the incentives, the lies, the machinery, the disposability. The world looks like a prison, and you look like a prisoner. This is not delusion, it is partial truth. But it is not the whole truth. And if you stay here, the nigredo becomes a tomb rather than a furnace. Albedo the whitening. The washing begins, not with tears, with facts. You start keeping a sober record. You document the timeline. You separate what you know from what you fear. You stop arguing with feelings and start counting costs. You hire the attorney who understands the machine, not the one who tells you what you want to hear. You tell the one trusted man everything, and he does not flinch, and his lack of flinching is the first evidence that you are not insane. The emotional reactivity drains. Not because you have suppressed it, because you have metabolized it. You have converted rage into data, grief into discipline, betrayal into pattern recognition. The world is still dark, but your eyes have adjusted. You can see the walls of the maze because you have stopped running and started mapping. Citrinitas, the yellowing, the solar masculine awakens. This is the dawn. You feel something you have not felt in months, not happiness, not relief, but purpose. The anger that was poisoning you becomes fuel, not for revenge, for construction. You see what must be built, a new life, a new self, a new relationship with your children that is not dependent on a court's permission to exist. You start training your body, not vanity armor. You start reading, not escape. Armament. You start praying, not bargaining communion. You start building something the court cannot seize. Skill, discipline, brotherhood, inner resource, spiritual ground that no order can vacate. Rubedo, the reddening, integration. The old self is gone. The new self is not a reaction, he is a man. He can love without idolatry because he has withdrawn the anima projection. He can fight without hatred because his anger has been refined into justice. He can father without possession because he knows his children are persons, not property. He can obey a corrupt order without submitting to a corrupt truth, because he has learned the difference between external compliance and internal consent, the red stone, the philosopher's stone. The completed man, dangerous when necessary, gentle when possible, truthful always, crossing the great water. The Yi Jing's hexagram Kan, the abysmal, represents water flowing on, danger repeated, darkness upon darkness. The image is a man in a gorge, water rushing around him, no visible exit. The counsel is not fight and not flee. The counsel is flow through. Let the water carry you. Do not resist the current with thrashing. Do not drown in despair. Maintain your integrity, and the gorge will open. You are crossing the great water. The passage is real, the danger is real, but the crossing is possible. Millions of men have made it. Most suffered in silence. Some did not make it. You will make it because you are reading this, and reading this is evidence that something in you has chosen survival over surrender. V. The well, finding, bricking, lowering, drawing, finding the well. Hexagram 48 of the Yi Jing is Jing, the well. The well is the source. In every community, every tradition, every man's soul, there is a well, a deep source of living water that no institution can poison, no court can freeze, no adversary can drain. You have been drinking from shallow streams. Her approval, the court's fairness, the culture's recognition, those streams are now toxic. You must find the well. The well is not a theory. It is not an ideology. It is the deep source of truth, discipline, and meaning that your ancestors drew from, the canon of Western civilization, the practice of virtue, the communion with the Logos, the craft of your hands, the love of your children, the brotherhood of men who have been tested and remained, bricking the well. The Yi Jing warns, the well must be maintained. If the wall crumbles, mud enters. If the rope breaks, the jug falls. If no one draws, the water stagnates. The well of Western tradition, natural law, virtue ethics, due process, the dialectic, the trivium, the theology of covenant and fatherhood has been neglected for generations. The walls are crumbling. Mud has entered. Your personal well is the same. Your discipline, your prayer, your physical training, your legal education, your friendships, your craft, these are the walls of your well. If you let them crumble, the water turns to bitterness and despair. You must repair the walls, brick by brick, day by day. Lowering the jug by rope and wheel, drawing water is work. It is not inspiration. It is not a weekend retreat. It is the daily discipline of prayer, study, training, documentation, and counsel. You lower the jug every morning, you haul it up, you drink, you do it again tomorrow. No one will do it for you. No court will order it. No therapist will prescribe it. No algorithm will prompt it. It is yours, drawing living water. The living water is truth that nourishes rather than intoxicates. The old streams romance mythology, social approval, institutional recognition intoxicated. They made you feel good and left you empty. The well gives you something harder and better. The truth about who you are, what happened to you, what you must do, and what you are becoming. Vite shadow integration and anima withdrawal. The shadow. You have a shadow. It is dark. It contains everything you have refused to acknowledge. Rage, hatred, desire for revenge, despair, contempt, lust for domination, hunger for vindication. These contents are not sins to be confessed and exorcised. They are energies to be integrated. Rage integrated becomes the courage to set boundaries and hold them under fire. Unintegrated, it becomes the text message that costs you custody. Humiliation, integrated, becomes genuine humility, the knowledge that you were not as smart, as aware, or as powerful as you thought. Unintegrated, it becomes either self-pity or performative dominance. Shame, integrated, becomes truth-telling, the willingness to name what happened without flinching. Unintegrated, it becomes silence, and silence in a courtroom is consent to the narrative. Envy, integrated, becomes discipline, the sight of men who rebuilt, used as evidence that rebuilding is possible. Unintegrated, it becomes resentment that poisons every friendship. Revenge fantasy, integrated, becomes lawful strategy. You do not destroy the adversary. You survive the adversary, outlast the adversary, build a life so clean and disciplined that the adversary's narrative collapses under the weight of its own dishonesty. The best revenge is not destruction. The best revenge is a life that proves the lie was always a lie. Anima withdrawal, This is the hardest psychological work of the passage. The anima, the soul image, has been projected onto her. She was not merely a woman. She was your imagined completion, the feminine principle that would make you whole. The Sophia who would redeem your solitude, the muse who would justify your labor, the mother who would comfort your wounds, the queen who would validate your kingship. She could not bear this weight. No woman can. The anima is within you. It belongs to the logos. It is the feminine dimension of your own soul, eros, beauty, tenderness, imagination, relatedness, that must be integrated, not outsourced. When you withdraw the projection, something shatters, the spell breaks. You see her not as goddess or demon, but as a human being who made choices under incentives you did not see. You see yourself not as the man who failed to please her, but as the man who outsourced his completion to a mortal, and then was surprised when the mortal failed. Withdraw the anima. Stop looking for the next woman to carry it. Stop looking at the ex to carry it. Carry it yourself. Integrate it. Let eros return as appreciation of beauty, not as hunger for validation. Let tenderness return as care for your children, not as appeasement of a spouse. Let imagination return as vision for what you will build, not as fantasy about who will save you. The spell of ignorance, the romantic mythology that makes men vulnerable to the machinery, breaks the moment a man takes back his soul and places it under the authority of truth. 7. Natural law crimes and the magnitude of inversion. Natural law is not a suggestion. It is the moral architecture of reality, the proposition that there are real goods, life, truth, family, justice, due process, and real evils, falsehood, betrayal, injustice, tyranny, the violation of the innocent. Positive law, what legislatures and courts enact, may align with natural law or contradict it. When positive law contradicts natural law systematically, the system is not merely wrong. It is committing what the classical tradition would call a natural law crime, a violation of the moral order so severe that it corrodes the civilization that tolerates it. We need a measuring system. Not for rage, for clarity. The inversion of fitness, magnitude 9. Maternal presumption treated as absolute truth. Paternal fitness treated as conditional privilege. This is the inversion of the natural law that both parents are necessary and that children have a right to their father, not merely to his wallet. The system presumes the mother is fit by default, and the father must prove himself fit by petition, an inversion so profound it would be recognizable as tyranny in any other context. Imagine a court presuming you guilty of a crime and requiring you to prove your innocence. In family court, this is the daily procedure. Restoration, lawfully document your daily involvement with your children. Record soberly, factually, every bedtime story, every school pickup, every meal cooked, every doctor's appointment attended. This is not bureaucratic obsession, it is moral testimony. You are creating an archive of fatherhood that the system refuses to keep. The commodification of paternity, magnitude 8. Fatherhood reduced to a financial obligation. A father's worth calculated as a monthly transfer payment. The check becomes the relationship. The relationship becomes optional. The check remains mandatory. This is not justice. This is extraction disguised as child welfare. The natural law says fatherhood is a covenantal relationship, presence, authority, love, moral formation. The system says fatherhood is a line item. Restoration, pay your lawful obligations with precision and without complaint, but never confuse payment with presence. Invest in the quality of your time. Teach your children what the system cannot teach them, that their father is a man of integrity who did not abandon them, even when the machinery tried to make abandonment look like the easy option. The tyranny of subjectivity, magnitude 7. Emotional states elevated above empirical evidence in legal proceedings. I feel unsafe treated as proof of danger. Subjective experience elevated to objective fact without cross-examination, without falsifiability, without due process. This is the satanic inversion. The elevation of the private will over public truth, of feeling over fact, of accusation over evidence. This inversion is satanic in the precise theological sense. Satan is the accuser, and his method is the unfalsifiable charge. Hath God said, The serpent's question is designed to be unanswerable because it does not seek truth. It seeks doubt. The system has made doubt into a verdict, restoration. Anchor in objective reality. Keep the sober record. Do not argue with feelings. Argue with facts. And let the system's irrationality expose itself over time. Truth is patient. Lies require maintenance. 8. Archetype transmutation. You are not merely surviving. You are being transmuted. The old archetypes that governed your life are being broken and reforged. Name the process so you can participate in it consciously. The sulking husband, the stoic observer, the man who sulked when he was misunderstood now observes. He watches the machinery operate, he notes the incentives. He records the lies, he does not react, he understands. This is not passivity. This is intelligence gathering. The stoic observer is the man who cannot be provoked because he has already mapped the provocation's source. The confused father, the disciplined mentor. The man who did not understand why his children were being taken now becomes the man who teaches his children by his example how to survive injustice without becoming unjust. He does not badmouth their mother. He does not use them as therapists. He shows them in the limited time he has what a disciplined man looks like under pressure. This is mentorship they will remember for life. The victim of circumstance, the architect of fate. The man who is acted upon now acts. Not reactively, architecturally, he designs his life. He sets the schedule. He controls what he can control. His body, his finances, his craft, his mind, his soul. He cannot control the court order, but he can control his response to it. Agency is not the absence of constraint. It is the refusal to let constraint become character. The emotional pleader, the rational provider. The man who begged for understanding now provides, not for the adversary, for himself, his children, his future. He has stopped pleading with a system that does not hear him and started building a life that does not need the system's approval. The rational provider is not cold, he is precise. He gives where giving builds. He withholds where withholding protects. The broken provider, the statesman. The man whose provisioning was weaponized against him now becomes a statesman, a man who understands that provision without authority is exploitation, and that authority must be rebuilt from the ground up. Starting with self-governance, he does not demand authority. He becomes the kind of man whose authority is self-evident, the tyrant shadow, the servant king. The shadow of tyranny, the fear that you must dominate or be dominated, is transmuted into servant kingship. The servant king does not rule by force. He rules by service, sacrifice, and truth. He protects, he provides, he corrects, he endures. His authority is not granted by a court, it is earned by conduct and confirmed by the respect of those who witness it. The chaotic lover, the ordered lover. The man who loved chaotically, desperately, needily, projecting salvation onto romance, learns ordered love. Love of truth first, love of children second, love of craft third, love of brotherhood fourth. Love of a woman, if and when, fifth, and only after the first four are established. Ordered love does not eliminate passion. It prevents passion from becoming a wrecking ball. The cynic, the witness, the man who became cynical, who decided everything was a lie and everyone was a predator, is transmuted into the witness. The witness sees the lies clearly, but does not conclude that truth does not exist. He concludes that truth is rare, costly, and precious, and that his task is to preserve it, testify to it, and build institutions that protect it. The cynic sees the museum of misandry and concludes the world is hopeless. The witness sees the museum and resolves to build an archive that remembers what actually happened. 9. Why many men do not survive this passage. Be honest about the stakes. Men die from this, not all at once. Some through suicide, the direct route, the one that arrives in the 3 a.m. hour when the weight feels mathematically irreducible. Others through slower mechanisms, alcohol, isolation, the erosion of physical health, the abandonment of purpose, the slow motion surrender that looks like functioning but is actually a man waiting to stop. The statistics are not ambiguous. Divorced men have dramatically elevated rates of suicide, substance abuse, depression, and premature mortality. Fatherlessness, the state the court manufactures, correlates with nearly every negative life outcome for children and for the fathers who are forced into it. The family court system processes millions of men per year. A significant percentage do not recover. This is not said to terrify you. It is said to locate you in a real landscape with real coordinates. You are not having a bad month. You are crossing a terrain where men die. The fact that you are reading this means you have chosen to be one of the men who lives. Why you must survive. You must survive because your children need a father, and the systems attempt to replace you with a check, and a bureaucracy is a civilizational lie that destroys children. You must survive because your testimony, your sober, factual, documented record of what happened, is evidence in an archive that future men will need. You must survive because the civilization that produced you, with its traditions of natural law, due process, virtue, and covenant, is being dismantled, and the men who survive this passage are the ones who will rebuild it. You must survive because despair is a lie. It feels like truth because it is internally consistent, but it is consistent only because it has excluded every fact that contradicts it. Despair says this will never end. Reality says everything ends, including this. Despair says nothing you build will last. Reality says everything you build is being built for a future you cannot see but must trust. The future can be cleaner. The life you lost was not as good as you remember. It contained the pre-litigation silence, the growing distance, the cooling bed, the conversations that became negotiations, the compromises that became surrenders. You were not happy. You were managing, you were performing a role that was slowly extracting your substance. The life you will build can be cleaner. Not easier cleaner. Your time will be your own. Your money will be yours to invest in your children, your craft, your mission. Your friendships will be tested and true. Your discipline will be visible. Your body will be strong. Your mind will be armed. Your soul will be grounded in truth rather than illusion. Men who have crossed this passage report the same thing. I did not know how free I could be until I lost everything that was enslaving me. This is not cope. This is report from the other side of the great water, preparation for lawful counter-revolution. The personal passage is not the end. It is the initiation. You have been qualified by suffering, by endurance, by the acquisition of hard knowledge for a larger work, the archive. Keep the sober record, not for revenge, for history. The Museum of Miss Andre must be answered by an archive of truth, documented cases, legal briefs, court transcripts, false allegations exposed, process abuses catalogued. This archive is not a vendetta. It is a Nuremberg, a moral, historical, and symbolic accounting, conducted not by tribunals, but by men who refuse to let the truth die. The Nuremberg frame is rhetorical and archival, a record of what happened, preserved so that future generations know, and so that the architects of the inversion cannot memory hole their work. The Museum of Miss Andre is a symbolic catalog of the cultural narratives, institutional mechanisms, and ideological frameworks that enabled the extraction. It is a teaching tool. It is not a monument grievance, it is a diagnostic instrument. Men who enter the passage after you will need to see the map. You are drawing it testimony. Your story, told soberly, without exaggeration, without hatred, with precise attention to facts, dates, incentives, and mechanisms, is testimony. It is more powerful than any polemic. The cultural machine suppresses men's stories, because men's stories, told plainly, expose the machinery. Tell yours to those who need to hear it. Tell it in the right setting, at the right time, with the right framing. Not as a victim, as a witness. Due process restoration. The counter-revolution is not a march, it is a reconstruction. It begins with men who understand the system rebuilding institutions that protect truth, legal defense funds for fathers, due process advocacy, legislative reform efforts, parallel institutions for education, brotherhood, worship, and mutual aid. It is slow work. It is generational work. It is the only work that has ever built anything lasting, institution repair. Western civilization was built by men who understood that institutions, family, church, guild, court, university, senate, must be grounded in logos, virtue, and natural law, or they become extraction machines. The institutions you inherited failed because they were captured by ideologies that replace truth with power, merit with grievance, covenant with contract, fatherhood with payment, due process with accusation. You cannot retake the captured institutions overnight, but you can build parallel ones, men's groups that function as mutual aid and accountability networks, legal practices that defend fathers with competence and courage, educational models that teach boys the trivium, the canon, and the virtues, worship communities that honor fathers rather than extracting from them, craft guilds that train young men in competence and character. These already exist. Find them, build them, support them. INCSE Survival Doctrine, 14 Rules for the Passage. These rules are not aspirations. They are operating procedures for men in the machine. 1. No permanent decisions in acute shock. Wait for the fog. 72 hours minimum before signing, selling, or moving. 2. One trusted man. Find the brother who survived. Tell him the truth. Let him hold you accountable. 3. Sober records. Daily log. Dates, times, facts. Emotion is data about you, not evidence about her. 4. Lawful compliance. Obey the orders, even the unjust ones. Non-compliance is the evidence they need. 5. Minimize exposure. Speak less. Write more. Keep every digital footprint clean enough to read in open court. 6. Refuse the liquidation. They want assets, reputation, fatherhood, and life. Hold every line you can lawfully hold. 7. Integrate the shadow. Acknowledge anger, fear, hatred. Do not let them drive, let them fuel. 8. Focus on the child. Your duty is to your children, not to your ex-wife's narrative about you. 9. Build the new self. Body, mind, soul, craft, finances. The isolation is a forged 10. Seek virtue, not victory. Justice is a long game. Character is the immediate prize. 11. Avoid the spiral. No revenge, no substances. No late-night communications with the adversary. 12. Trust the process of growth. Post-traumatic growth is real. The collapse is a threshold, not a tomb. 13. Reclaim your agency. You are not a victim. You are a participant who chooses his response. 14. Look to the future. The life you build now will be cleaner, freer, and more real than the one that burned. 12. Crossing the great water. You are at the bottom of the well. The rope is broken. The water is muddy. The walls are high. The adversary is above you, and the system is the system. Do not drink the muddy water. Do not curse the well. Do not die at the bottom. Climb brick by brick. Day by day, document by document, prayer by prayer, rep by rep, meal by meal, page by page, call to your brother, answer when he calls you. The living water is below the mud. You must dig through the silt of your old life, the illusions, the projections, the trusts that were betrayals waiting to activate, the comforts that were chains, and reach the clean source. When you reach it, you will know. It will taste like truth. It will feel like strength. It will look like a man standing in a clean room with a trained body and a quiet mind and a sober record and a mission and a child who knows her father did not abandon her. That man is you. He is waiting at the top of the well. Climb. The goal is not to hate the maze. The goal is to stop living as livestock inside it and to build outside its walls a civilization worthy of the men who will inherit it. Rite of passage plan. The rite of passage, a daily protocol for the man after the fall. The first 72 hours emergency stabilization. 1. Secure your physical safety immediately. If you are in acute shock, heart racing, hands shaking, mind spiraling, you are in a physiological state comparable to a car crash survivor. Treat yourself accordingly. If there is any imminent physical danger, get to safety through the least adversarial route available. A trusted friend's house, a hotel, a family member. Do not make dramatic exits. Do not gather evidence in a rage. Move your body to a safe location and sit down. 2. Make 0 permanent decisions for 72 hours, no signing documents, no sending emails, no social media posts, no confrontations, no moving out of the house without counsel, but no staying in a dangerous situation either. Write this on a card and carry it. I am in biochemical shock. My prefrontal cortex is compromised. I will not make irreversible decisions in an altered state. The man who acts in the first 72 hours usually hands his adversary the very weapon she needs. 3. No alcohol, no drugs, no numbing agents of any kind. Not one beer, not one hit, not one pill that isn't prescribed and necessary. You are about to enter the most strategically important period of your life, and you cannot afford a single fogged judgment, a single late-night text sent under the influence, a single slurred phone call recorded and submitted as evidence of instability. Sobriety is not a wellness suggestion. It is body armor. Put it on. 4. Contact one trusted man, not a committee, not a group chat, not your mother, not your sister, not a woman who understands one man. Ideally, a man who has been through family court warfare and survived, who rebuilt and is standing. Call him and say, I am in crisis. I need you to be my anchor for the next 90 days. I will not make major decisions without running them past you. I need you to tell me the truth, not comfort me. If you do not have this man, find him through men's groups, fathers' rights organizations, church men's ministries, or combat veteran networks. This is not optional. The isolated man in shock is the man who does not survive. 5. Begin the sober record. Tonight, before you sleep, open a notebook, physical, not digital, and write the date, the time, and a factual account of what happened. No emotion, no editorializing. Names, times, locations, words spoken, documents received. This is not a diary. This is a field report. You will add to it every single day. If it is not written down, it did not happen. Memory degrades under stress. Paper does not too. The first 30 days, the daily discipline. 6. Establish the anchor routine. Your life has been detonated. You need a new structure, minimal, non-negotiable, repeated daily until it becomes load-bearing. Here is the baseline. Time action 6 a.m. wake, same time every day regardless of how you slept. 6:05 a.m. drink a full glass of water. Wash your face with cold water. 6:10 a.m. walk outside for 20 to 30 minutes. No phone, no podcast. Sunlight on your face and silence in your skull. This is not exercise. This is neurological recalibration. 6:45 a.m. Eat protein. Eggs, meat, fish. Not cereal, not sugar. Your brain needs amino acids to repair stress-damaged cognition. 7:15 a.m. Shower. Cold finish. 30 seconds minimum. This is voluntary hardship, a daily declaration that you are not comfort servant. 7:30 a.m. prayer or meditation. 5 minutes minimum. If you believe in God, pray the words of your tradition. If you are searching, sit in silence and speak honestly to whatever you think might be listening. If you are secular, recite, I will accept what I cannot change. I will change what I can. I will seek the wisdom to know the difference. Then sit with that. 7. Enforce sleep discipline. Sleep is when the brain processes trauma. Without it, you degrade into a reactive, emotional creature. Exactly the state your adversary's strategy depends on minus fixed bedtime. Same time every night, 10 p.m. if possible, no screens after 9 p.m. Read a physical book instead, Stoic philosophy, biblical wisdom, military memoirs, anything written by men who endured. Dark room, cool temperature, phone in another room, powered off. If you wake at 3 a.m. with racing thoughts, do not reach for the phone. Sit up. Breathe slowly, 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. Write the thought on paper beside your bed. Return to sleep. 8. Eat like a man under repair. 3 meals a day, protein at every meal, vegetables, water, a gallon daily, no skipping meals. Low blood sugar mimics anxiety and will amplify every catastrophic thought. No emotional eating, no sugar binges, no comfort food spirals. You are an athlete in training. The sport is survival. 9. Maintain or restart work. Do not quit your job. Do not reduce hours unless legally necessary. Work is your financial lifeline, your psychological anchor, and your proof of functioning. If the court sees a man who keeps working, keeps producing, keeps showing up, you are building a case for competence simply by being competent. If you are unemployed, your full-time job is now finding work. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Applications, networking, skill building. Treat it as a military operation. 10. Obey every court order, every one, without exception. This is not legal advice. This is survival doctrine. Even unjust orders, even orders that make your blood boil, Obey them precisely, document your compliance, and challenge them through lawful channels with competent counsel. The man who violates an order, even an outrageous one, gives the system the rope to hang him with. Comply, document, and let your discipline contrast with the system's irrationality. Do not give them a single log to throw on the fire. 11. Retain carefully vetted counsel. Do not use the first lawyer in the phone book. Do not use your cousin's divorce attorney, who usually handles amicable splits. You need a lawyer who understands the adversarial nature of family court against men, ideally one with first-hand experience, who will not reflexively profile you as a perpetrator, who understands due process and evidence. Interview multiple, ask hard questions. What is your approach to false allegations? How do you handle custody fights when the mother is the destabilizing force? Have you ever been through this yourself? Choose carefully. This person holds the keys to your fatherhood. 12. Build the evidence timeline every day without fail. Add to the sober record. Structure it as a timeline. Date and time of every interaction with the adversary in person, by phone, by text, by email, exact words spoken to the best of your recollection. Every financial transaction, payments received, payments made, legal fees incurred. Every interaction with your children, what you did, what you said, how they responded. Every court filing, every order, every correspondence from counsel. Photographs of the condition of your living space, your children's belongings, any property in dispute. This is not paranoia. This is the habit of a man who has learned that in family court, assertion beats absence. Her lawyer will make claims. Your timeline will be your defense. Keep originals, make backups, store securely. 3. The inner work, psychological and spiritual reconstruction. 13. Begin shadow work. Your anger is not sin. Your humiliation is not weakness. Your grief is not failure. But unexamined, these forces will drive the car while you ride in the trunk. 3 times per week. Sit for 20 minutes with your journal and write directly to your shadow, the part of you that wants revenge, that wants her to suffer, that wants to burn it all down. Do not censor it, let it speak. Then respond as a father responds to a furious son. I hear you, your rage is data. It tells me what was done to you, but you will not drive. I will carry your fire, but I will aim it. This is integration, not indulgence. You are not feeding the beast. You are taming it by hearing it. 14. Withdraw the anima. You projected your soul's inner feminine, beauty meaning completion, salvation, onto a woman who could not carry it. She was never your anima. She was a person, and now she is a legal counterparty. Daily practice. When the image of her arises, the good memories, the longing, the phantom intimacy, do not fight it, observe it. Then say aloud, that image is mine. It came from within me. I withdraw it from her and reclaim it as part of my own soul. Over weeks, the spell weakens. The woman becomes a person. The goddess dies. And a more grounded man emerges from the grave of the fantasy. Do not pursue a new woman in this phase. A new woman is just the old projection in a new dress. Wait until you can look at a woman and see her not salvation, not destruction, not your mother, not your wound, just a person. That clarity takes time. Give it. 15. Practice one virtue daily, not abstractly. Concretely, each morning, choose the virtue of the day and perform one action that embodies it. Courage. Speak one hard truth to one person. Say the thing you've been avoiding. Temperance. Deny one desire deliberately. Skip the dessert. Leave the argument. Justice. Treat someone more fairly than they treated you. Not because they deserve it, because you do. Fortitude. Endure one discomfort without complaint. Cold shower. Extra set. The silence after the lawyer's call. Prudence. When faced with a choice, ask, what would the calmest, wisest version of me do? Then do that. Humility. Admit one thing you got wrong, to yourself, to your trusted man, not to your adversary. Virtue is not a personality trait. It is a muscle. You are rebuilding yours from atrophy, rep by rep. IV. Fatherhood, the sacred duty. 16. Fight for fatherhood through presence, not rhetoric. If you have children, they are not a weapon. They are not a legal argument. They are your blood, your legacy, your primary duty on this earth. Approach them accordingly. every lawful moment of contact. Be fully present. Phone away, eye contact. Listen more than you speak. Document every interaction, not to build a case against her, but to build a record of your love. Never speak ill of their mother in their presence, ever, not once. Your restraint is their security. If contact is restricted or supervised, comply with dignity. Your children are watching how a man behaves under fire. They will remember. Write your children letters, even if you cannot send them yet. Date them, keep them. One day they will read them and know their father fought for them with discipline and love, not rage and chaos. Your fatherhood is not granted by a court. It is claimed by your conduct and proven by your consistency. V. Brotherhood, the parallel institution. 17. Build or join a brotherhood. You cannot survive this alone. That is not weakness, it is anthropology. Men are built for the tribe, the war band, the guild, the council. Isolation is where men die, sometimes literally. Weekly, meet with at least one man face to face. Not on a screen, in person. Find or form a men's group, church-based, martial arts gym, fathers' rights organization, veterans group, recovery community. Anywhere men gather to tell the truth and hold each other accountable. Share your story, not for sympathy, for witness. A man who has been seen by other men in his worst moment and not abandoned is a man who can endure. Listen to theirs. Your pain gives you credentials. Use them to help the next man who walks through the same fire. This is how civilizations are rebuilt. One brotherhood at a time in rooms the machine does not monitor. VIX. Service and rebuilding the well. 18. Serve one man worse off than yourself. Once per week minimum. Find a man who is deeper in the well than you are and help him. Not with money necessarily, with time, with listening, with carrying something heavy, with showing up. Why? Because service breaks the spell of victimhood. It reorients you from what was done to me to what I can still do. It rebuilds the masculine identity the court tried to strip. Protector, provider, contributor. And it plants seeds in soil you will never see, but someone will harvest. 19. Rebuild the well one new habit at a time. The old life is gone. The old identity is dead. You are now constructing a new man from the wreckage. Choose one habit, just one, that builds an inner resource no court can seize, no ex-wife can drain, no system can revoke. Lift weights 3 times per week. Strength changes your posture, your hormones, your time horizon. A strong man thinks differently than a weak one. Read 1 chapter per day of a book from the Western canon. Meditations, the book of Proverbs, the Nicomachean Ethics, the Enchiridion, the Federalist Papers. Feed your mind on the words of men who built things that outlasted empires. Learn one skill that makes you independently valuable. Carpentry, coding, butchering, fixing engines, growing food. Competence is sovereignty. Write daily, even if only 3 sentences. Your story matters. Someday it will be evidence that men survived this. Write it. The well is the part of you the system cannot reach. It is your discipline, your craft, your faith, your body, your knowledge, your brotherhood. Every day, drop 1 stone into it. In time, the water will rise. 7. The 90-day mark, assessment, and commitment. 20. At day 90, take inventory. Sit down with your trusted man and review. Physical. Are you stronger than 90 days ago? Are you sleeping, eating, walking? Financial. Are you employed? Are debts mapped? Are legal fees under control? Legal. Is counsel retained? Are orders being followed? Is the timeline maintained? Fatherhood. Are you present for every lawful moment? Are you documenting? Psychological. Are you sober? Are you integrating the shadow or drowning in it? Has the anima projection weakened? Spiritual. Are you praying, or at least sitting in honesty? Are you practicing virtue? Brotherhood. Do you have men in your life who know your name and your fight? Then set the next 90-day goal. This is not a sprint. This is a siege. Sieges are won by the side that eats, sleeps, disciplines itself, and refuses to break. Final word. You were placed in this fire, you did not choose it, but your response is entirely your own. The old world is ash. The new one is being forged right now in your cold shower, in your sober record, in your silent walk at dawn, in the letter you write to your child, in the hand you extend to the man below you in the well. This is not the end of your story. This is the chapter where the hero descends into the underworld, is stripped of everything false, and returns harder, clearer, and more dangerous to lies than he has ever been. Climb. Brick by brick. The water is waiting. The well, you are at the bottom of the well, holding a broken rope, but you must not drink the muddy water of bitterness. Instead, you must climb brick by brick, using the discipline of your labor to reach the living water of truth above. Brother, I need you to hear me because I sat exactly where you are sitting now. I stared at the court order that called me a visitor in my own child's life. I read the affidavit that turned my love into pathology. I felt the machine try to drink me dry and leave a husk. But I'm telling you what I discovered at the bottom of that abyss. They can take the house. They can weaponize the paperwork. They can build their museum of misandry and sell tickets to my dispossession. But they cannot reach the wellspring. That wellspring is the irreducible core of your agency, your capacity to observe, to choose, to build, to refuse the script they wrote for your collapse. It flows from a place no family court judge, no HR tribunal, and no ex-wife can touch. And when you stop fighting them on emotional terrain and start digging down to that water table, you become a man they cannot control. Not because you are angry, because you are ordered. That is the real alchemy. The dark night you are in right now, it can become post-traumatic growth and higher virtue. I did not believe it either, but the old naive self had to die so the integrated man could be born. Your humiliation becomes your humility. Your rage becomes your boundary. Your betrayal becomes your discernment. You will walk out of this crucible harder to deceive and harder to corrupt, and that is worth more than any asset they seized. So here is what I need you to do. Tonight, before you sleep, find one man who has walked this path and send him a message. One sentence, I'm going through it and I need counsel. Not sympathy, counsel. That is how brotherhood starts. That is how civilizations rebuild, one man choosing to stop drowning alone and linking up with another man who kept his head above the same water. You are not livestock in their maze anymore, you are an architect. And the foundation starts with that first honest message to a brother who knows. Sponsored book, Multiply Your Income, Red Pill Strategies for Men in Their 20s. Buy on Amazon or Google or Spotify Amazon link, https://www.amazon.com to Multiply Your Income Strategies. Reinvention ebook DPB0DY6 MSXSSQ Google link. https://playgoogle.com store audiobooks at TL as ID AQAAA key 6087M Spotify link. https://openspady.com show 4VRKMP8 MHIAT Jaku 4 ons. If you're reading this, you're likely a man in your 20s who feels stuck. Maybe you're working a job that barely covers rent, or you're drowning in student debt with no clear path to financial freedom. You've been told to follow the rules, keep your head down, and wait for success to come to you. But here's the hard truth. That advice is a lie. It's designed to keep you compliant, mediocre, and dependent on a system that doesn't care about you. I know because I've been there. I spent years grinding away in dead-end jobs, believing that if I just worked hard enough, someone would notice and reward me. Spoiler, they didn't. What changed? I stopped playing by their rules and started playing by mine. This book is the result of that shift. It's not a collection of vague motivational platitudes or feel-good nonsense. It's a practical, no BS guide to multiplying your income, building wealth, and taking control of your life. It's for men who are tired of being told to settle for less, who are ready to reject the societal narratives that hold them back, and who are willing to put in the work to achieve real success. If you're not a man in your 20s, or if you're content with mediocrity, put this book down now, go binge watch Netflix, scroll through social media, or do whatever else makes you feel comfortable. This book isn't for you. But if you're ready to stop wasting your potential and start building a life of financial freedom, keep reading. I'll show you how to identify your strengths, leverage them for maximum income, and create multiple streams of revenue. You'll learn how to network effectively, invest wisely, and develop the mindset of a high earner. You'll also discover how to navigate the modern world as a man, embracing your masculinity without apology, while avoiding the traps of toxic narratives. The strategies in this book aren't theoretical. They're based on my own experiences and the proven successes of men who've used them to transform their lives. I've made mistakes, learned hard lessons, and come out stronger on the other side. Now I'm sharing everything I've learned so you don't have to waste years figuring it out on your own. Your 20s are the most critical decade of your life. Don't spend them chasing someone else's dreams. Take control, multiply your income, and build the life you deserve. Let's get started. Buy on Amazon or Google or Spotify Amazon link https://www.amazon.com to multiply your income strategies. Reinvention ebook DPB0DY6 MSXSSQ Google link https://playgoogle.com store audiobooks at tail as ID AQAAA key 6087M Spotify link https://ofen-spadify.com show ad 4 VRKMP8 MSIAT Jaku 4 ons multiply your income. Red Pill Strategies for Men in Their 20s written by Conrad Riker. Buy now, links in description.